Alrighty, welcome back, baby. We have Mr. Kevin Bibera on. What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Mate.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Kevin's one of my best friends. I lived with him for how many years? Just a year and a half, I guess.
Year and a half.
We've known each other for
About 3 years.
3 years
almost.
now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin was a dental student at UCLA. He is currently a dentist now. And how's being a dentist, man? It's been like 2 months? No, more than that.
It's been about 4 months. Yeah.
4 months.
Yeah.
So how's being a practiced dentist now?
I mean, comparing it to dental school, awesome.
Yeah,
for sure.
Go talk to the mic a little bit closer, or bring it closer to you.
Gotcha.
You could just bring it back if you want. No, back this way. Yeah, there you go.
Like this.
Yeah,
Is this better?
it's better.
Okay. No, yeah, being a practicing dentist has its pros and cons, but I think honestly the freedom, the autonomy, not having people, check your work all the time or, getting criticized for everything. Again, that's a pro and a con.
Yeah.
One thing I miss though is definitely like the mentorship, and that's something that is kind of hard to get, once you're in private practice, once you're practicing all by yourself.
So like in UCLA, you felt like you had a lot of more mentors compared to like what you do right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you just don't feel like you're learning a lot, or what?
I feel like I'm learning, but not fast enough, not efficiently. That's what I feel like. A lot of the times I have to review the lectures that, we were taught in school, or I'm like reading textbooks or watching videos just to supplement, because there's a lot of things that we see in private practice that we just didn't see in dental school. Because, dental school is only a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
So yeah. I kind of, that's something I miss.
It's been crazy, the big change just in our lives in the last 2 years. Me and Kevin were living in this like not great apartment in Santa Monica, like musty ass carpets, like it was not very clean. Kevin was a dentist, and I'd always find like jars of teeth around the apartment, and I was like,
hey, but that apartment honestly was home.
It was home, bro.
After leaving that apartment,
we became great friends at that apartment. We had this balcony, and we'd always smoke cigars and talk for like hours, man. About some deep shit.
Yeah.
Just like about life, about just like what we wanted to do, what we didn't want to do, what we didn't know we wanted to do.
Everything.
Yeah.
Books. It was funny too, because the backyard, we just stared into complete trash. The neighbor's backyard.
It wasn't bad though. There was a beautiful tree there. And
Beautiful tree. No, but honestly, I loved the Barrington apartment.
Yeah.
It had everything that I needed, and it was so comforting to come back home, to you and Brandon, and just to, talk about bullshit all the time.
Yeah.
So I did miss that. I do miss that. Yeah.
Yeah, we got super into IPAs and just like drank a lot. You drank a lot more than I did back then.
I wouldn't say that.
It was funny. So we had another roommate named Brandon, and in my opinion, Kevin could correct me if I'm wrong. There was Kevin, who I felt like drank a lot and partied a little bit more than I did in college. There was me, who was like in the center. It was like in the middle, like I did once in a while, and then there was Brandon. And at the time, Brandon was like the typical like Mormon good boy.
He's
a square.
Yeah.
No, he's ovally now, but yeah, it was a really good balance in my opinion, because like we got the best of both worlds, and I learned a lot from them because I was still an undergrad, and I was going to school with these like dental students and they were always talking about like all these dental terms, and now every time I run into a dental student, I'll like say these dental terms, like endo means what's it called again?
Root canal.
Root canals.
Yeah.
And then calculus is like the shit on your teeth that like dentists clean off. And I would be like, oh, so did you start doing like cavities on your like D1, D2? Have you like scraped all the calculus off yet for your first cleanings? And they're like, I have a buddy who's currently in dental school right now, and I asked him about it, and I asked those questions, and he was like, bro, how do you know those words?
No, that's something that always fascinated me about you, Nate, honestly, was that somehow, you have a really good ability to meet people and to build relationships. No, seriously.
Yeah.
Brandon, if you're going to listen to this later on, like the fact that Nate has made more dental school friends, or at least they know him more than you, is quite impressive, though. Quite impressive.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
But yeah, I think you just, you go out there, and I think you're pretty much, honestly, I think you're just intrigued by, what people are passionate about, what people are interested in. And correct me if I'm wrong, maybe this is the reason why you created this podcast, is maybe to get to know, what fuels people.
Yeah, I mean, that too. I've always wanted to start a podcast, and like, funny story is I've been wanting to do this since I started living with Kevin, and that was about 2.5 years ago. And funny story is we actually recorded a podcast, and I listened to it the other day, and I never put it up, and it was so bad. And we had this like okay mic. The camera shut down after 15 minutes, so we didn't even have a recording of it. And like, there was a ton of tapping in the background, and
that was me. That was me.
That was Kevin.
I was a little bit nervous. I was tapping the table. I didn't realize it was picking up.
Yeah, and I just stopped doing it. But that was like an intro. It kind of got me like wanting to do it, but then it also was like, this shit's hard. It's not gonna work. But then I'm happy like 2.5 years later, I actually did it. But the funny story is like Kevin's been there through like everything with me, and I've seen him grow, he's seen me grow, and it's been really cool to like just like witness each other's growth in the last couple of years.
Oh, dude, thanks, man. Yeah.
So what are you up to now? You live in Tehachapi, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's living? Do you miss LA at all, or explain where Tehachapi is?
Okay, so for our listeners, Tehachapi is kind of near Bakersfield, a little bit south of it. It's about, an hour and 30 minutes north of Los Angeles, and it's between Bakersfield and Lancaster. Very much a culture shock when I went there. It's, a small town, more so on the countryside.
Yeah.
I got my first house there that I'm renting, which has been great, on a 1-acre lot. It's been interesting.
Yeah, what are you doing with that 1-acre lot?
Nothing.
Is it pretty nice to have that space, though, compared to just like living in an apartment in LA?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. When I was living in a studio in Los Angeles, which, by the way, cost more than what I'm paying now for that house on a 1-acre lot in Tehachapi.
Also, though, he was living in Westwood. And, like, Westwood is known for, like, the highest rent in LA just per square footage. Just, like, background.
It was tiny.
Yeah.
And so, especially going through dental school where, I have to spend a lot of time studying, I found it kind of stressful being in my apartment because sometimes, I don't want to walk all the way to the library. I want to study in my apartment, and my apartment is a studio. And so I associate my apartment with work continuously to the point where once I'm stressed out in there, when I try going to sleep or anything, like I just still feel like I'm in a study mode. And so that definitely affected my sleep and stuff like that. So yeah, being in a house, I have a room for my office. I have a game room with a dartboard.
He has a laundry room too.
A laundry room. That was a big thing for me.
For people in Fresno, from where I'm from, or like other places around the world or whatever, having your own washer and dryer in LA is a game changer. Let me tell you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I have a couple other rooms that I just, if I ever want to change the spot, change the scene, I can walk into that other room. Yeah.
So we've had this conversation, especially a couple years ago too. You didn't always love dentistry, right?
No, I didn't.
So what got you into dentistry? What made you not like dentistry at that time? And just explain that process.
Okay, so I don't know where it started from, but I always figured, I wanted to go into medicine and I wanted to be a physician. And so during my time in UC Santa Barbara, I did a lot of volunteer work at a hospital and a hospice. And to put it short, my experience with all of that made me not really like the field. And specifically one moment when I was volunteering at a hospice, one of my jobs was to have conversations with the people that don't have any visitors. One of those people was actually about to pass away. And so they asked me, like, hey, Kevin, do you want to experience something that you may experience, throughout your career? This person doesn't have any visitors for her. Maybe you want to just stay by her bedside for a little bit.
Oh, shit.
And so it was a really sad thing. It's not like I I went home crying from it.
Yeah.
But it
Just
kind of
opened your eyes.
It kind of made me think, like, I'm not really sure if this is something I want to do for the rest of my life. I feel like it's something I can't just go home and forget about if one of my patients passed away. Yeah. And act completely normal around my kids, around my wife. So I started exploring elsewhere, and I already did some exploring in pharmacy in high school, and I hated it. I knew from the start. Why didn't you like
pharmacy?
Oh, it was kind of like a cubicle job, almost. I think it didn't help where I was working at. The pharmacy was located in the bottom floor of the basement, with no windows. It was pretty cramped. Yeah. And, I was just watching the pharmacists. They kind of just stayed on the computer, checked boring. Everything. Yeah, it just wasn't for me. Yeah. It just wasn't for me. So I started thinking, okay, what else in health can I do? Because I know I want to serve people. And I found my way into downtown Santa Barbara clinic, where I met this guy, and he was honestly the key component in pushing me towards dentistry. And it's not like it was direct in any sort of way. It's just he was just that type of guy that had tons of energy, walks into the room, he's always smiling. And every time I interacted with him, it was very active. He was always telling me what he's doing with the procedures, and as well, he would also tell me about some of his life stories, you know, like what he did as a hobby, how his backpacking trips in Europe, and other things. And so there was one moment where I was just like, wow, I kind of just want to be like you. Like, you seem like you're having a good life,
Yeah.
So I was like, why didn't
was that that epiphany moment? Like, oh, I think this is what I want to do.
I guess you could put it that way. I think that's at least what got me started with the thought, you know, maybe I should be a dentist. And then I started doing more research about dentistry. I think it has a good lifestyle. Yeah. We definitely learned that that's not the truth in dental school, that it's not the best lifestyle. But yeah, that's how I got started. And I guess to go back to your first question, did I always like dentistry? I didn't. The first 2 years of dentistry, I thought it was boring. Like, I felt like I was repeating classes from college. And to me, there wasn't really true meaning behind what I was learning yet. I think it was partly because I was naive. It's partly because,
Also, I feel like you didn't decide to. Like, last night, me and Kevin were smoking cigars and just, like, catching up because we haven't seen each other in a while. And I'm reading this book called Practice by Seth Godin. And this, I don't know if it's a quote or he said it, like, really stood out to me. And it said that amateurs say, do what you love. Society says, do what you love. But professionals say, love what you do. And learn to love it, decide to love it, because you chose this path. Like, and a lot of people, if you just look back at college, I think you would agree with me on this. Oh, I want to go to UCLA dental school, or I want to go to UCLA or whatever. And, like, you look at it, and at the time, you're like, fuck, dude, I don't want to take this class. I don't want to study it. My life sucks. But then you look at it 2 years before that, prior, and you're like, this is exactly where I wanted to be 2 years ago.
That's true.
And then you look at it right now from you in dental school. This is exactly where I wanted to be a year ago.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
And that puts it in perspective, and you're like, yo, this is what I decided to do. I should, like, take it in and, like, those facts and just, like, learn to love what I do, And if you really truly don't, like, you should have decided that a long time ago.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of hard, at least for the most part. Every time I think I want something and I achieve that goal, whatever it is, I feel like
on to the next thing right away.
Yeah. It's kind of like a little rat race.
Well, you've been always pretty goal oriented. Like, you always knew kind of what you wanted, and then every time you got there, you're just like, oh, okay, what's the next thing to do? And I feel like that's a great quality about, like, very, like, creative, hardworking people.
I think it's a good quality, but it's also has its drawbacks, just because.
In what way?
Pretty much, having goals is great, but always trying to achieve goals, I feel like sort of puts me in the mindset that I'm kind of results oriented. I'm like outcome dependent.
Sure.
And if I can't get that outcome that I want, then it frustrates me. And once I get to where I wanted to be, for instance, UCLA, it wasn't necessarily, it was great once I got in. I was excited, I partied, whatever. But then after that, it kind of just simmers away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, okay, well, what else is going to feed my happiness or, you know, my curiosity? And so I always wondered if that's, you know, how life is going to be.
What makes you happy?
I mean, there's a lot of things that make me happy. I keep thinking about that book, Principles, where he talked about, you know,
meaningful work and
meaningful relationships. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so for me, that ultimately is what makes me happy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, it talks about work and relationships. It doesn't talk about results. And it's kind of, you know.
Don't you feel, though, if you have meaningful work and you surround yourself with, like, people that mean a lot to you and work hard and, like, have the same qualities as you do, like, it kind of correlates to, quote unquote, being successful, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Like, why do most successful people hang with successful people, and why do most people who, like, don't got their shit together hang out with people who don't got their shit together?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's real. I mean, that's my definition of happiness.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, I really don't fuck around with, like, people who, like, are super negative or don't share the same mindset as me, because it, like, brings me down, and that brings my happiness down, you know?
I think, during dental school, especially, like, in my second year, I started really thinking about, you know, who I hang out with, who's, like, my inner circle, who's influencing me. Kind of like what you said, like, if you don't want to be around people that are going to bring you down or don't have a good mindset, or, you know, maybe have goals that are a little bit different from you.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of going to deter me from whatever I want to achieve or whatever I'm going for, you know?
So go back to dentistry and what you're working right now. How has COVID affected, like, just, like, work, or for you specifically, how did it affect getting a job? Because you graduated right when the beginning of the pandemic happened, right? So explain that process and how crazy it was, because I heard everything firsthand from you.
Okay, so just graduating was a hassle just because, you know, we don't have any more clinic and we're trying to finish requirements.
Yeah.
And so I really pushed hard to get that done, and then also tried to take my licensure exam as quickly as possible because, you know.
So you need a license, right, to practice dentistry?
Yeah, you need a license to practice dentistry.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the licensure test for California or for UCLA got postponed, or you couldn't take it at the time?
Every school has a specific date to take the test, and UCLA decided to, you know, schedule their date way too late because all the other schools already scheduled dates. So we ended up, you know, 3 months after graduation, that's when people took their licensure exam. Yeah. And for me,
that's not ideal, right?
I wanted to start working as soon as possible, you know, like, because what was I going to do during that time? Yeah. So, I pushed hard and I transferred to a different school to take the licensure exam and passed it. But the tricky part, like what this question was, you know, how to find a job. And so
during this crazy time, right?
Oh yeah. I did a lot of interviewing, a lot of phone, Zoom interviews, and I was.
How was Zoom interviews?
You know,
or are you one of those who wears, like, boxers with, like, a nice fancy top on top?
I wore shorts for sure. Yeah. No, I mean, like, I wasn't in, like, a, you know, a suit and tie, but
did it make you wear, like, a collared shirt?
I just wore a polo shirt.
Okay.
You know? Yeah. It was pretty much casual for the most part for these interviews.
Yeah.
But yeah, Zoom. I mean, after seeing so many horrific stories of people not muting or people leaving the camera on while they go to the bathroom, I made sure to double and triple check every time I did a Zoom interview. Yeah. But other than that, you know, aside from the first one, I think I was a little bit
nervous. You didn't kind of know what to expect.
Yeah. After that, I think all the other interviews were pretty straightforward. Sure. Yeah. For me, like, I already knew exactly like the kind of criteria I wanted in a practice. Yeah. Because I really wanted to get good experience. Yeah. And then hopefully save up money for high quality continuing education. Yeah.
Just for, like, the last few months too, has work been busy, or, like, because I know at one point, like, even what is it called? Practices were, like, closed.
Oh yeah.
So like you're the only person, or you were, like, the first person in your class to get a job, right? Or, like, one of the first people, except for, like, people who already had it lined up for, like, years.
Yeah.
You know?
I did have a job, but yeah. That didn't go well.
We could skip that.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess to put it directly, yeah, I was one of the first people to get a job.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
COVID, how has it affected it? For the most part, actually, in the beginning, it was great. It was great. But it wasn't until October, November that things started to slow down.
Yeah.
And that's just because the way, dentistry works is that when people come in for a cleaning, they schedule their next cleaning 6 months out.
Yeah.
When COVID happened, all the dental practices were shut down in April, which meant that October didn't have any hygiene booked.
Yeah.
So when October came around, we didn't have a lot of hygiene booked. There was less patients coming in. And then also November, December, it's just kind of holiday season. No one wants to go to the dental office.
Yeah.
Well, anytime really, but specifically also during holiday season, so.
Yo, correct me if I'm wrong. Dental school is a little bit more expensive or just as expensive as med school, right?
It's more expensive.
It's more expensive.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for anyone who wants to go, not necessarily in the medical industry, but the dental field, and like, because that's a lot of debt, and like I think you did your loans and everything pretty good. Like, what's your advice to them in terms of just like not burying yourself in a hole, or just like what is the proper, I don't know, strategy in that sense? Because just what do you what's your advice on that?
Well, I will say, if you love dentistry, then go for it. But again, just like anything else, any other profession, it's kind of hard to realize like whether you truly love something until you go into it. And, I'm going to put it blatantly that dental school is not fun, and that there's a lot of, just a lot of bullshit that you're going to have to go through. So don't let that deter you from, loving dentistry as well. There's a lot of amazing things you can do in dentistry, including business. If you don't like dentistry, you can run multiple practices and just hire people. So there's a flexibility to it. In terms of, student debt, I feel like I don't really have a lot of advice for that, which is probably the reason why I'm getting advice from you on how to set up a Roth IRA. But ideally, you want to take out the least amount of loans as possible, and maybe find a way to pay it off during dental school, which is kind of hard. But one thing I have learned from dental podcasts, especially when they talk about the fastest way to get rid of your loan debt, is actually not to pay it off the fastest and like live like a poor person, but to actually pay your loans off as slow as possible. And then after a year or two, save enough money to get a bank loan to purchase a practice, and then use that practice to gain revenue to pay off your loans faster. Because the amount of money you make as a practice owner versus an associate is way more.
Oh, really?
Way more.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I think a practice owner can expect to make around 300, 350. I know other dentists in LA making $450K as a practice owner.
That's crazy.
So you can imagine, and plus you're already starting to build your business while you're paying off your loans faster.
And you're learning a lot of stuff that it's, to own a practice, you have to also know a lot of business skills, right?
Exactly.
And going into it, like you didn't think that you really needed to know all that, or did you?
Definitely had thoughts like I need to understand how to run a business. I need to understand how to manage a team and select the right people. But during dental school, there is no time to think about business. I felt like all my time was spent on how to do things the right way, how to treatment plan, etc. Just basically, only dentistry, the clinical aspect. Then you go out in private practice, and then you start to, pick up on, some of the business nuances that you have to know as a practice owner. So
is the end goal still to own a practice?
Absolutely.
End goal, like
absolutely. The end goal? Maybe no. There's always going to be something else. Maybe somewhere. I have no idea.
But it's up there. You still want to own a practice?
Oh yeah. I think.
What's the appeal?
Okay. Of course, the compensation is going to be higher. You know, it's your own business. But I think more so that, again, you're creating something. You're building something, and your practice is tailored on your philosophy. And that's the thing about dentistry. Like, unlike medicine, where everyone works in a hospital, it's kind of, in a structured way. dental practices differ greatly, especially in their philosophy on how they treat patients, etc.
Yeah.
And so I kind of don't want that to be dictated by someone else. I kind of want to, treat patients the way I always wanted. Well, yeah.
Or also the way you wanted to treat them.
Just, yeah, sure. Exactly. High quality stuff.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of conversations, and you brought up like basketball and what your high school basketball coaches taught you and stuff like that. And what are some lessons that, because I learned a lot from my high school golf coach, and I've still practiced like a lot of like lessons and like things that he taught me then. And what are some of those lessons that your high school basketball coach, or like just being on a team or being an athlete, help you with, or in terms of like mentality and like work ethic that you still use today?
That's a good question. Yeah, basketball had a huge influence on my life.
Kevin's also a tall, Asian, good-looking man, and there's not a lot of those out there. So,
thank you. Oh man, yeah. Back in high school, I always wanted to be an NBA player.
Yeah.
So basketball was really huge in my life.
Sure.
Yeah. To put it, let's see. Some of the goals that my coaches have instilled in me, I think probably the biggest thing is ownership, actually. That
what do you mean by that?
To take full responsibility of not just yourself, but the team,
Yeah.
And when other players aren't doing well, it's also your responsibility for, maybe why they're not doing well and to help them out in that sort of sense. And then the other thing is definitely a winner mentality. And yeah, it means to be competitive and stuff like that. But what it means to be a winner, it means to, fail consistently, but also how to adapt to that, how to not let your failures get to you. And when you're on the court, there is nothing else there but to win, honestly. Yeah. And I know that sounds kind of aggressive, but that's how they always taught me, was that once you step on the court, you have no friends, and that you're there to win, that you have one goal. So I guess those are some of the things that they...
That's pretty cool, bro. I mean, that was deep and intense at the same time.
It was it was very intense. There's actually a story my coach was telling me that even in high school, he would tell, I mean, I wouldn't recommend doing this because it's kind of shady. But he told me that, he used to tell all his friends, like, hey, come on, guys, are you guys going to prom? Are you guys going to this dance? And then he would get all his friends to go. And on the day of, he wouldn't show up. He would be at the gym shooting, 1,000 shots a day.
Oh, shit.
Because that's what he always said, if everyone else is out there, going to prom, doing this stuff, how do you become more than average is to not do what average people do. Yeah.
Uncommon people do uncommon things.
Yeah. Yeah. So, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I think, the hard work and everything was, that's where I got those values from, and also the competitiveness.
Yeah. That winner mentality and the way you described that, it's kind of like a must for like any person who achieves great things. If you look at great athletes, like, Michael Jordan, for example, like he was super selfish in the sense that he just wanted to win all the time, but it wasn't in terms of just like, he just wanted to be great. He wanted to be the best. And like, it might have came off as like a dickish like mentality and stuff like that, but some of the best people in their field are like that.
Yeah.
Like, you look at Steve Jobs, he's an asshole.
Yeah.
And he created something that I don't know if the world would be the same if he didn't.
He was innovative.
Yeah.
Yeah, he pushed things. I remember hearing a story, I think, where, he wanted a really good computer built into a very elegant design, and they were saying like, we can't
it's
do
impossible.
this.
Yeah.
And he was like, you have, 6 months to get this done or you're fired. Yeah. Stuff like that. And I guess, that's definitely, part of that winner mentality, is that it's always about like, maybe I can't do it. It's just about, okay, how am I going to find solutions? Yeah. It's always just about finding solutions. And going back to what you said about Michael Jordan, one of the things that stuck with me was like that he says, it's not that I want to, it's that I have to. It's that I need to, I need to be this great. And so it wasn't really just like, oh, this would be a nice, benefit or something to add to my repertoire. It's like this is my life.
Yeah.
Depends on it, So
that's how I feel about working out sometimes. Like to get strong and to like I feel like working out for me does like a ton for me mentally as well as physically, and like it just like pushes yourself,
Yeah.
And like I tend to always, especially like goals of mine and stuff, I always do things that like a lot of people don't like do in terms of working out. Like I'll run in the rain. I will like work out early in the morning or work out at night. It just feels like you have that like edge on people,
Oh yeah.
Speaking of working out, Kevin hasn't worked out in a while,
Oh,
and we used to work out all the time in our Barrington apartment. We had a LA Fitness just walking distance. It was really convenient. And but Kevin hasn't been working out. You want to explain why?
Well, I mean, for sure, one is COVID and the pandemic has made it a little bit hard.
Yeah.
But two, I mean, the last couple times I worked out, I got something called rhabdomyolysis. Rhabdomyolysis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know what it is, it's what is it called?
It's rhabdomyolysis. Myolysis. Rhabdomyolysis.
Okay.
It has lysis at the end.
Yeah, sure, whatever it is. And it's basically, I don't know if it's a disease or it's basically a condition where your muscles deteriorate on itself, correct?
Yeah, like faster than it can recover.
Can recover. And I've read about rhabdo in David Goggins' book when he ran like 100 miles and he got rhabdo. And he said it was the worst, most intense pain ever, right? And I haven't seen Kevin in a while, and I picked him up, and he worked out for the first time in a long time since COVID. And he got in my car, and he just started screaming. His legs were twitching, right? It was just, was it like one of the most painful experiences you ever had?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could describe it better than me. Like, what was the sensation? What was the feeling of it?
So I had rhabdo. It felt like my hamstring area / inner thigh.
Yeah.
So you can imagine any sort of like squatting motion, anytime you sit down, stand up, or whenever you stabilize yourself, like going up and down the stairs, that would cause a severe stabbing, shooting pain, right? As if like someone's just like slowly ripping apart your muscle. So when I got into your car, we were going to Father's that day, right?
I mean, we're supposed to.
Yeah.
We made it a total of him closing the door.
Yeah. I would say what really made it worse, aside from that pain, was the fact that I felt trapped. Because the moment I sat down in your car, just imagine I'm having excruciating stabbing pain.
Yeah.
And I felt like the only way out was to stand up and to engage those muscles, and that it was going to hurt like extremely more. And so I kind of felt like I was trapped in a sense that like the only way to get out is like to cut off my limb or something.
Fuck.
So that's why I was like, dude, help me get out.
Yeah.
And I was like low key crying a little bit.
I've never seen a grown man cry like that. And I don't wish rhabdo on anybody, but I've only heard about it. And Kevin explaining that the experience for me, I was like, for all you people out there who have not worked out before or haven't worked out in a very long time, please be careful and please get into it slowly, because you could definitely hurt yourself if you haven't done it in a while. Like, warm up properly. Because like rhabdo is real. And like pulling muscles is real, tearing shit's real. Like, just be careful, especially if you haven't worked out in a long time. Wouldn't you agree? That's just like some good advice.
Oh yeah. And stay hydrated. I think that's the biggest thing too with rhabdo.
Oh yeah.
Is that like I just wasn't hydrated enough as well. So that was a big thing.
Drink your water, folks.
Exactly.
Yeah, what do you call it? What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I want to talk about videography.
Ooh.
So Kevin got pretty good at photography and videography in the beginning of dental school, right?
Yeah.
And he had like this crazy setup. Like, you dropped at least $10K on your equipment, right?
I used my student loan money. So I wouldn't suggest that for all you pre-dents out there that are
or pre-meds or pre-whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Be smart.
But he was super artistic in the sense of like how I loved his videos, and the way he describes dentistry too as an art. It made me really respect you as someone who treats their job as a creative process versus like, oh, I'm just going to fill a cavity, boom, you're done, whatever. And you articulated dentistry as like, oh, here's a problem and I want to solve it in the most beautiful way possible. And then you wanted to portray that beauty from like a picture or a video. And is that the reason why you got into videography, or like how is videography and dentistry similar, and just like how did you get into like photography too?
Okay. You know, my love for both are I feel like they come from the same place.
What's that place?
Sure. Strictly my values, you know, my core principles and stuff like that. Because again, you know,
like what core principles?
I think the fact that I don't want to just make something half-ass, and that, you know, I want it to be not just a creative experience for me, but something that is more than just the work itself to whoever it's for, you know, the patient or whoever the person is watching. Yeah. You know, and so again, when I really love something that I do, it's not just me doing a task. It's like much more than that. Yeah. You know? And so again, I spilled, you know, a lot of effort into both of those things just because I loved what I did. You know, it was fun doing it. I had a lot of fun doing those stuff. But what's funny is that how I got into photography was because I didn't like dentistry. So, you know, spring quarter rolled around in first year, and I was getting burnt out. Yeah. And I thought, you know what? I need to get a new hobby just to sort of, you know, ease my mind off of dentistry, because it's just, I'm not having a good time with it. Yeah. So, I had this hobby before in high school. I was a high school photographer.
Oh, you were?
And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
so I did that for 3 years. Yeah, yeah. It was cool. It was cool. So I ended up using my loan money to buy a camera, and I asked my friend to get me a free course in this online art school. So I had to submit, you know, pictures and stuff like that as class assignments. And so that's how it all began. I started bringing my camera to school. I started taking photos of my friends.
Yeah, was that weird? Did some people look at you weird?
Everyone was, you know, kind of at first taken back, like, are you serious? And then we're kind of like, okay, yeah, you know, let's take some photos, you know. And then, you know, I started first with my friends, and then I branched out into my classmates.
Professors too?
And then
like that?
Professors, yes, if they were at some of our school events.
Okay.
So I eventually transitioned.
Oh yeah, you did some
videos
for school events.
Yeah, I slowly transitioned into video after photography. Yeah. But yeah, it came about because I wasn't really enjoying my time in dental school. But there was a point, you know, so there's this thing called ASDA, which stands for the American Student Dental Association.
We're looking at Mr. Prez right here.
Yeah, I was president of the school, but I did hold also.
No big deal, like president of UCLA dental school.
It wasn't a big deal. But I did also simultaneously hold a national position on ASDA. Yeah. Which was the videographer, and so they flew me around across the nation
to take videos.
Super cool, dude. It was super amazing. Cool. Yeah. And during one of our socials, my boss came up to me. She's like, Kevin, you know, every time I talk to you, you sound so passionate about making videos, and the work you put out is, you know, by far the most amazing videos we've seen in ASDA.
Really?
So
that's awesome.
You know, have you ever thought about, you know, pursuing this? You know, it seems like you're more interested in this in dentistry. And honestly,
at the time, that was probably a tough question for you. You're like, fuck.
Well, it was a tough question because it kind of threw me back. It was a nice compliment, you know, and it was true. I loved, you know, making videos. Yeah. But at the same time, it made me like sort of self-reflect. Sure. You know, is this the path that I really want to be in? You know? So, I mean, it was a thought, but of course, I think I would still finish dental school regardless, even if I wanted to just do videos. But what's funny is that in third year, when I started getting into clinic, that's when they became synergistic. Yeah. That's when photography started linking up with clinical. And that's when the things that I thought, you know, were not really important started coming back to me, you know, from the first 2 years, that they're actually, you know, it's all adding up for this patient, for this person. Now I put a face to what I'm applying my knowledge to.
You kind of just all meshed together, right? Like,
it did.
Yeah,
it did.
That's super cool because like some things that you're interested in, just like you're like, oh, maybe I wasn't meant to do this. Maybe I should go this way, that way. They're so totally different things. But then like down the road, you're like, whoa, like maybe it was meant to be because like I kind of blended the things together and just like made it one thing. It's better than each single thing. Like dentistry is like cool, videography and photography is cool, but you kind of just brought it together, you know?
Yeah.
And it just made you that more of a asset, you know?
Yeah.
Right?
I got very lucky. I think, I mean, obviously I didn't plan that out for them to mesh together.
But it just happened.
But it brought about a whole new perspective on dentistry, just because, you know, not only am I doing the work, but I'm like showcasing my work. I post my work, and every time I review my photos, I see all the flaws that went into my work and how I could be better. And it really made me like hypercritical about each of the steps I'm doing, how I could have improved. And then also gave me a lot of reward because when I was doing stuff well, or I could present stuff well, including patients, you know, I would take photos of their mouth, and it's a way better tool to communicate to patients. This just raised the bar for me for dentistry. And this sort of pushed me like, I really want to be, you know, even better, you know, after seeing it in this sort of way. You know? So it's been, you know, quite the tool in terms of improvement. And now, I mean, it's kind of mandated now. The school's starting to make it, you know, mandatory that you take photos of some of your cases.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of, especially from some of your professors and stuff, I feel like you kind of changed their mindset on like photos and videography. They're like, oh, our school functions could be presented in a much more professional manner. Our like projects and these cases could be documented way more properly. Because like once you started getting a camera, Brandon started getting a camera, Caesar started, all your peers started getting a camera to take pictures of their cases.
Oh, yeah.
And that wasn't the norm at the time, you know?
No.
So that's super cool, dude.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. It was good feedback from the faculty because one of my favorite parts about dental school was actually the advanced treatment planning cases. So we would take a complex patient, do the full workup for it, and then present the case to a number of specialists, you know, including a gum specialist, you know, a root canal specialist, a prosthodontist who's more into complex cases and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But having those visual images were key in my presentations, and it completely awed some of the faculty. Like some of them have told me like, wow, this is probably the best presentation I've seen. And so that's sort of, and they started asking me more like, you know, have you ever thought about going into this or that, or, you know, and it made me.
Sorry, continue.
No, that was pretty much it. But it made me want to be better, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I was going to talk about since the presentation part, because you used to be super nervous, like just like presenting in front of people, right?
Still am.
You said you were shaking and shit, like because like I had that same problem too, but like we read this book called Talk Like TED. It's basically a ton of firsthand people talking about their experience doing TED Talks and the process of like how to be comfortable talking in front of people, and just like certain mannerisms to get good at, right?
Yeah.
And what did that book do for you, or how did you get decent or good presenting in front of people? Because you had to do something right, and you had to learn something for those professors, for those like high-end staff members to say that for you, because they've been around a ton of students, they've been a ton around of presentations. Like, what do you think, if you learn it from that book or from something else that like made you stand out like that?
That book had a lot of good points. I definitely am not a master at all in public speaking, but I think one of the take-home messages was to present, you know, a story. It's a little bit different with dentistry. I guess you could present the patient's background and social history and stuff like that. But I guess in terms of presenting it, what the book made me think about was, again, like how to make it simple and how to present, you know, the main theme. And for, you know, with my cases, especially with the photos, you start with the main goal in mind, which is the end goal. Where do we want to be?
Sure.
What is the patient's expectations, and then working backwards from there methodically.
100%.
So, I mean, I didn't take so much from that book in terms of presenting for dental work and stuff like that, but I have sort of twisted it in some ways and sort of incorporated those messages from that book into my presentations.
Heck yeah.
But I still have a lot to improve on.
Do you still present like at your work right now, or not really? You kind of just do the work?
Only to patients. But right now I'm actually working up a case, similar fashion to the way I did at UCLA. And it's a full mouth rehab case. I'm really excited for it.
Okay.
I'm also pretty nervous about it.
Is it like through your practice though?
It is.
Oh, that's exciting.
And it's completely different from what my practice does. Like,
sure.
I had to bring him back for, a second appointment just to take new measurements. And there isn't even like a procedure code to charge out or anything. I told him I'll just do it for free.
No way.
I'm doing actually a lot of the work for free.
Why is that?
Not the actual dental treatment per se, but it's like the treatment planning aspect.
And I feel like that's harder than the actual treatment, right?
It's probably even more. I would say it's like just as important as execution. But one of the things that we do in treatment planning, and kind of like what I spoke about when I presented treatment plans to specialists, was that you want to start with the end in mind. And one thing that some dentists may do is something called a diagnostic wax up. So you take someone's, upper and lower jaws and their teeth that are debilitated, and you wax up into the ideal form and how it would fit into the face. And that is sort of the blueprint on how you would sort of go about your sequence of treatment planning.
Oh shit!
So that's the next step actually when we go back to work in a couple weeks. That's kind of
exciting, dude.
I'm excited
because I remember you talking a couple weeks ago to me, and or not even, maybe a month or two ago, and you just felt like you were just not doing things that challenged you.
Yeah.
And that sounds like it's challenging you. It's making you.
It's making me sweat bullets just because, like, this case is going to be like 40, 50K or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
But the patient seems motivated. I'm hoping to take this case actually to some other specialists just to see,
just double check.
Yeah,
see
like
their opinion on it.
What they see, what am I not seeing, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
How's being in someone's mouth all the time?
It's awesome, honestly.
Yeah?
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
I feel like it's so disgusting, bro.
No, I mean, there's some mouths that are disgusting, but I don't know. I just like being in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just looking around.
I just like doing work.
Because Brandon feels the same way too. Because Brandon did my cavities.
Yeah.
At UCLA, which now looking back at it, and he was a student, I honestly don't know why I did that. I mean, obviously, I was like, I had good insurance and like whatever. I was like, why did I let my roommate do my cavities? And it was weird because like he was talking to like his professor, and he was like, oh, did I do that right and shit? I was just like, what did I get myself into?
Dude, I still remember when we came back home the next day, you were like, Brandon, why is my tooth hurting now? It's sensitive. It wasn't sensitive before. Now it's hurting.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
It hurt for like 2 weeks, and I was like, my roommate fucked up my tooth.
Yeah, 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
But it went away.
It went away finally.
Everything's good with it then?
Everything's good, man.
That's good.
I think I'm flossing every day.
That's good. That's good.
I'm brushing my teeth.
That's probably better than, 99% of the people flossing.
Explain why. There's some people, like friends of mine, they've never used an electric toothbrush. So what's the difference between an electric toothbrush and a regular one? Why is it better?
It's honestly they're about the same.
What? Yeah. I heard it's way better.
There's only one in the literature that shows to be just slightly better.
How so?
And that's Oral-B. I don't know. I didn't read too heavily into that into that article.
Sure.
But other than that, I think what's positive about electric toothbrushes is that, one, it forces you to brush for 2 minutes straight. 2, it's just easier because you just leave the toothbrush on the tooth and it does the work for you, and then you just move it over to the next tooth. And then 3, probably the newest thing that was put in, is that it has like a pressure gauge. So if you're applying too much force to your teeth and your gums, it will vibrate red for you and show you that you're brushing too hard.
So like that's like the Tesla of toothbrushes, or what?
Kind of. Yeah. But that's a thing though. You can brush off your tooth structure.
Yeah, you see the like some toothbrushes that are just destroyed, and that's probably from way too much pressure, right?
Oh yeah.
How was growing up in like an Asian household from like immigrants? Because like my parents are like that way too. My mom's from Vietnam, or my mom's from Laos. My dad's from the Philippines, and I believe your parents are both from the Philippines.
Both from the Philippines. Yeah.
Yeah. So how was that experience? Because I don't know, compared to like a lot of my like white friends growing up, because I grew up in Fresno. Most of my friends were white, and it was like totally different than just like my parents in terms of just like how they treated me in terms of school, and in terms of just like pressure on like doing good and doing great, you know.
My experience has been good, honestly, for the most part. I mean, definitely ups and downs. Definitely strict. I feel like my
strict
parents
in what way?
Going out, anything fun related, I guess. They're, they have a lot of sayings that they believe in that doesn't have to make any logical sense, but it's just always something that they were taught, so we have to do that. It's like,
because I said so. Why can't I go out because I said so? Why can't I do this because I said so? Was it because it was like that? Stuff
like that, or, something about like if you work out and you take a shower, then you're going to have, like very gross veins. Like it's going to show, you're going to have darker veins, know, and stuff like that. Some stuff, weird.
Yeah, my mom always used to say, like, if you eat before you go to bed, like, you're going to die early. Or if you don't eat breakfast in the morning, like, you're going to, some health reasons, right? And I'm a personal trainer now, and I was like, my mom fed me a ton of bullshit growing up. Where did you hear this from?
Oh, my God. But other than that, I mean, going to Asian stereotypes, my parents actually, I mean, they wanted us to have good grades. Yeah. They wanted us to do well in academics, but for the most part, my parents would always say, like, do your best and God will do the rest. They didn't really care so much if I was necessarily number one in my class or something like that.
Just to do your best.
Yeah. They just wanted me to hang out with the right crowd and, just try to do well.
Yeah. So. Do you think growing up like that helped you at all? Because, like, for me, even though I didn't particularly enjoy it at the time, I look back at it now and I was like, I'm probably the man I am today because a lot of those strict parenting, and I was just like, yo, that sucked at the time. But I like one of the biggest things my mom taught me was never have a TV in your room for me,
That's good.
And I was like, shit. And like now I just can never have a TV in my room. Like I had a TV, I gave it away. And now like the place where I have a TV in my room is just like this big whiteboard with all my goals on it.
That's good.
And like that's something that my mom instilled in me since I was like a little boy. And like I always wanted a TV in my room. I wanted to play video games when I was like in kindergarten or first grade. And I was like, all my friends have a TV in their room. And that's like something I hated at the time that I really like appreciate now. And is there anything that your parents instilled in you and like that you really appreciate now?
One of the things that they taught me that I didn't really take to heart until, again, dental school was, they would always say birds of the same feather flock together. And, I hear it all the time, you're only the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most.
I totally agree.
But it totally, especially nowadays, like I'm very, very selective. I feel like
who you hang out with?
Yeah. Not that I wouldn't be friends with a lot of people, but like who I spend the majority of my time with is really important to me.
Sure.
So yeah, that's one. And then also kind of similar fashion. We didn't have TVs in our room, and also I couldn't play any video games, which really ticked me off because I loved Halo. And so
Halo.
They did teach me how to be sneaky, and when my parents weren't home, I'd whip out the Xbox and start playing with my friends. Yeah. So yeah, I did that stuff.
Scheming. Baby Kev was scheming. Scheming at a young age. Didi's, his girlfriend's right over here. She's the one audience member, and she was laughing at Baby Kev.
My biggest supporter.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
If you haven't checked out Deanna's podcast, I think she was number 4. Great episode. Sorry. You can continue.
Other than that, I think the last big thing, of course, is family. I'm sure this is for you too, but for us, family was so important. It was important for us to, hang out with our relatives. It was important for us to meet our relatives in the Philippines. And they tried their best to instill some of the culture in me, which I completely failed at.
I failed that too, dude. I feel so bad.
Yeah.
I was talking to this girl
a girl?
Yeah, a couple months ago, and she's part African American, and she's talking about just like, yo, you know how privileged you are that you have the opportunity to learn about your history because your grandparents are still alive, your like uncles and aunts are still alive, and you have a privilege to do that. I don't have that privilege, you know. Wow. Like my history ends at a certain point because of like slavery, you know. Yeah. And I don't get to learn about it even if I wanted to. And it really hit me hard because I was like, yo, like I can learn about it. I can ask questions, you know, and I feel bad sometimes. So lately, every time I'm going to go home, I've been asking like simple questions just to my grandparents because like culture is important. It's good to know where you came from, you know?
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. That was a very, you know, piercing statement made by that girl, I would say. Like
it's real.
It's definitely real and eye-opening, you know. Yeah. I never thought
about it
that
hard,
way. Yeah.
It hit me hard.
No, I was a bad child. I was just not I think it's just because I wanted to assimilate more with my classmates. Sure. And so they tried teaching me Tagalog or Bisaya. Yeah. And I just didn't want to learn it. I wanted to be American. I would tell my parents I'm American. And so I was kind of, it was my fault for sure. Yeah. But I do regret it. You know, I hope to learn more about my culture, our culture, I guess, you know, later on.
We'll learn about it. What are you most excited for in your life right now? Because you're kind of at a point where, like, the hard part was over. I feel like dental school was the hard part. Yeah. In terms of just, like, you've been working at it, or you've been in school for so fucking long, and you just got a job, and you're making some money now, and, like, what's exciting you now? What are you most, when you wake up in the morning, or, like, I don't know, like, what are you most excited for, just, like, in terms of, like, goals, or just in terms of life, or, like, whatever?
You know, currently, though, the main thing that's been on my mind, you know, aside from my relationships, is pursuing prosthodontics.
What's that? What's prosthodontics?
Prosthodontics is a specialty of dentistry that focuses on the replacement of missing teeth or rehabilitation of some debilitated teeth. Okay. But you can just sort of think of it as like a dentist that focuses on like full mouth rehab, very complex cases.
Kind of what you're doing right now in terms of this current case.
Last one, yes, is definitely more of a pros case. And so, I spent only 4 months in private practice, and I always had pros in my mind during dental school, and I thought maybe if I go into private practice, I can just make some money and buy some high-quality continuing education to get to that level. But it just sort of dawned on me that I think deep down I just want to pursue a residency. You can imagine it kind of like...
Is a residency like a PhD?
No.
So what's a residency?
A residency, I mean, it differs in length between, you know, specialties. Like oral surgery has different lengths, but it's kind of like a master's degree in a sense, or another form of professional degree.
So do you get paid for a residency?
Some do, and some don't. Okay. Yeah. But the way I think about, you know, I think the end goal for me, again, because, you know, I found out that I really love dentistry, was that I knew in the end, like, I just wanted to be really good.
Really great at what you do.
Exactly. Like, I want to be proud of the work I do for people. And to put residency in perspective, it's kind of like, you know, learning Spanish in a classroom versus going to Spain for 3 years to learn Spanish or something like that. Yeah. So right now, I think I just pulled the trigger, and I'm looking forward into my next chapter, even though it means, you know, doing an extra 3 years of school.
Yeah. I mean, it's exciting, though, because, like, I feel like versus you paying for some, like, high-end, like, continued education, that 3-year process will make that learning curve, like, exponential.
Oh, yeah.
Way faster. Like, you could learn it on your own. You definitely could. And you can. And you could get your cases and, like, do that. But then sometimes you might not get those cases in a private practice or, like, whatever.
Or you may, and they won't accept it. And they won't pay for the treatment.
Yeah. And in that process, through going to school again, you'll get those cases. You'll learn it quicker. And, like, you'll ultimately get to, like, the place you want to be faster, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's probably fucked him more money.
It's a lot more money.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I mean, I don't know if this is fact, but it's kind of what I've gathered from different people.
Sure.
And even prosthodontists was that, you know, you're not going to make necessarily more than a dentist.
Yeah.
Some prosthodontists even make less than a dentist.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of, you know, it's a challenge because, you know, on one hand, I want to be really good at what I do.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, it's kind of like, well, I have all these loans to pay off. And really the specialty, even after 3 years, you may not be making more than, you know, just a general dentist.
Yeah.
So that's something that I kind of, you know, I had to decide in my own heart, you know, if this is something I still want to pursue.
Yeah.
Not just because like I'm only in it for the money, but I'm trying to be realistic. You know, I've been in school all my life and I have so much loans to pay off.
Yeah.
You know, how am I going to support my family later on in the future?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's worth it. I mean, prosthodontists still make, you know, a good amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, in the day-to-day, just being proud of the work I do and doing high-quality work is enough, honestly. And if I still make just as much as a dentist, I'd be more than happy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
What do you miss most about LA? Because you come to your friends.
Why do you think I'm always here, man?
I don't know, because your girlfriend lives here.
My friends, I miss my girlfriend.
Because you come here every weekend usually, right?
Yeah, I do. Don't get me wrong, you know, Tehachapi is actually nice. It's beautiful,
sure.
and when my friends are up there, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, but other than that, it's not. It's definitely not a place I think I want to be long term.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I miss the city life. You know,
I mean, right now there's not a ton of city life.
No, there isn't. So I guess this is the perfect time to be in a more rural setting.
For sure.
Yeah. But you know, everything. You know, I guess the personalities, the people you run into, there's more things to do here, nightlife, etc. Like I would definitely want to be somewhere metro, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool since you kind of finished school and kind of like you haven't really got to enjoy just like making some money and not being in school and still being relatively young, because like I know there's a lot of people in your dental class that are like a lot older too.
Yes.
And they got like kids and shit. And like you kind of are at a point where like if everything was open, like you couldn't just enjoy like working for a little bit before you go back to school, you know?
Yeah.
Because you never really had that. You just been school, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And that kind of, you know, worries me, you know, that I've only known what school is like. The real world is not what school is. And same even in my career. Like once I get out of pros, it's also going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so will I be able to navigate, et cetera, and stuff like that? I mean, for the most part, my first taste in private practice, I think COVID didn't help, but I felt a lot of anxiety. You know, I felt kind of lost. School is sort of like, this is what you need to do to get here. This is the classes you need to take. This is the work you need to do. And then now that you're in the real world, it's kind of just like, there's so many options and like, what is the best option? And then that always worries me if I'm not making the right decision.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. And I feel like at least if I do apply to pros, I still have 2 more years in, you know, private practice and living in the real world.
Do you have like a contract with you right now?
I do, but technically it's at will, but I for sure promised at least a year with him. Yeah. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
What do you call it? So Kevin has always been like one of my biggest supporters, and I started a bitters company, which is basically like the salt and pepper for cocktails. In October. Good. Yeah, and he's been like the #1 customer. He's supported me all the way through. But Kevin didn't really drink whiskey before I introduced him to it. And he's like a whiskey connoisseur now, right? I mean, his boss gave him a bottle of Whistle Pig and stuff like that. But how's getting into like, because like I know you said that with dental school you needed like a hobby to distract you from just like the day to day.
Yeah.
And right now I know you're not doing a ton of videography and stuff like that, but you are working a lot. But on your times off, I know you enjoy a drink or two. Like, do you think like, and you've learned to appreciate like mixology and stuff a little bit more too. Would you say that's like a little bit of a hobby of yours now?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, after you know, trying new whiskeys, and then of course your different bitters and the combinations, and even like tequila, old fashioned. Yeah. Like that's when I got, you know, some bar tools, which I'm still planning to buy, and like, you know, those big square ice cubes. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely.
I'll get you those, bro,
honestly,
because I was gonna get you a shaker can. I did get you a shaker can for your graduation, and then Deanna told me she already got you one, or you guys already got one. So I'll get you one. I'll get you some. I'll get you some cool bartending equipment.
Dude, thank you. But
you have
honestly,
a bartending spoon?
No. So that
you don't have a spoon?
I'm missing a spoon and a jigger. But I have the strainer.
Next time you come here, I'll get you one. You're good.
But honestly, I think the best part about making drinks, aside from a really good tasting cocktail, is that once you start making it for people, it's like such a crowd pleaser.
Oh, it's it's a flex.
And I know I've told you this so many times, and I told you about Jeremy and some of my friends that got into it, but like, man, it's just like turns the party up.
Yeah, it does. But the thing is, like, it's definitely more like classy in terms of the sense that like you're just not drinking to get drunk. You're drinking for like taste. You're drinking, you can enjoy the thing that you're putting in like your body.
Oh, I think about like the flavors and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's similar to wine tasting for sure. Yeah. But it's not just like a chug and like get drunk type of thing, Yeah. And I think we're at the age where a lot of people our age still do that. But
that's true.
It's like a place where for me when I drink, I love talking to friends. I love enjoying people's company. I like having quality conversations with quality people, and like having a cocktail in your hand that you could sip and really enjoy the experience with those people is priceless. Every time that we sit down and have an old fashioned or smoke a cigar or like make whiskey sour, and the conversations we have with like a tiny bit of buzz that is like super tasteful is like awesome.
Dude, I've had some amazing conversations with my friends with your old fashions.
Yeah.
Dude, honestly. It's nice. It's, just something to sip on. Yeah, exactly. And it's just, there's nothing to do but to sit and talk with a cocktail. Yeah.
So we'll close out with this. We've had a lot of conversations too, and we've had a lot of like places in our lives where it's kind of unknown. We didn't really know, especially with you didn't know if you loved dentistry at the time, right?
Yeah.
For me, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to pursue personal training or if I wanted to go to grad school or whatever, anything like that.
Yeah.
And we had like a lot of low points too. Like you moved out at a low point from our house. That's why we didn't live together for that last year of school. What is your advice in terms of like getting out of those low points, and as well as like not knowing like what you want to do in the future, like just in a haze of just like life, because like everyone has that, and both me and you've gotten out of that pretty successfully.
Yeah.
But there's some people who never get out of it.
Yeah. That's a good question. My advice, I think, one of the things that causes a lot of anxiety for me, at least, is the fear of just not knowing. And I think, especially in life, there's a lot of times when you really you don't see where you're heading necessarily. You may not know exactly where you're going, but you kind of have to trust that it's going to end up where you want to be, assuming that you follow some good values and some good core principles, really striving to do, be the best at whatever you love to do.
Sure.
And, waking up in the morning and, kind of like what Steve Jobs did was ask himself, is this something, if this was the last day I have, is this something I would want to be doing today?
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, everything will you start to find, and I guess I'm relating this back to the photography and dentistry, is that you start to find, different things that you're interested in compile to make you really good at, at something, in your own unique personal style.
Sure.
I guess. Yeah. Like Steve Jobs, again, was, his passion for calligraphy mixed with computers, and it became his own style.
Changed the game.
Photography isn't new in dentistry, but it's definitely part of, my style, is that I like to present cases. I like to take photos of my work so I can improve.
Yeah.
So
if you had to narrow that whole thing, what you just said, in like a few sentences, like what if someone was in that haze, like what do they need to do, like tomorrow, the next day?
I don't want to just say like trust the process, I guess, but
I mean, that's good advice.
Yeah.
So just like keep your head down, trust the process, know what you want to do, and just follow it.
I think I mean, I think the audience is going to ask how, but I think kind of what you said, keep your head down and try not to let negative thoughts, stop you from having a good day and moving forward from that. And whether that's, meditating, whether that's, going out and getting some exercise and doing something active. I think being active would probably be the best way, especially if you're in the slump. And it goes back to like neuroscience, was that rather than trying to think your way out of negativity, what actually creates your thoughts and thus your emotions is actually behavior change.
Yeah.
So whether that's taking a cold shower, whether that's exercising, whether that's going into a sauna, if you can't get yourself out of that, threatening mindset, do something about it rather than think. Like go towards some sort of action rather than trying to think and convince her. Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming, brother.
Dude, thanks for having me on your show, man. I love you too, man.
All right. Everybody, Kevin Bibera. How was that?
Sweet.
Was that fun?
That was fun.
How did I do?
How did I do?
That's something that